East Hampton Zoning Board, you're live and you are being recorded.
Okay, thank you, Michael and LTV. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for December 14th, 2021. This is a work session this evening, so there will be no public hearings. Before we get to work, I'd just like to make a few comments. This will be my last zoning board meeting. I am going to be stepping down at the end of the calendar year, and I just want to take a few moments to thank a few people here. I did write a letter to the East Hampton Star to actually just publicly acknowledge my my appreciation, and people that know me know that I get teary-eyed in a heartbeat. So I encourage you to read that letter if you can't get to sleep some night. And the East Hampton Star was kind enough to publish that as a first letter in last Thursday's paper, so it's easy to find. But I just want to say that it's just been a real pleasure being on this board, going back to being appointed by Larry Cantwell, by the current town board's trust in me and in this board, and completely letting our board do its work without being interfered with in the least. And I've always appreciated that. I've been on since 2014, May of 2014 as chairman. I look forward to the new town board appointing my vice chair, Roy Delaney, and finding a new board member to be on the board to take my spot. I can't even begin to tell you all how much it means, and it's such a complex position. And all my fellow board members are the only ones who can, and previous board members can understand what I'm talking about. But I just really want to thank all of these board members. I could go on and on about them, but specifically my vice chair, Roy Delaney, Teresa Berger, and we have Tim Brenneman and Ed Johan, and they're just incredible, hardworking people. Nancy Lynn Thiel is our planning attorney. She's been absolutely wonderful, as have previous attorneys with whom I've had the pleasure of working with the last 7.5 years. The planning department, I just have to thank, obviously, because they do all the work. Brian Frank, specifically the good folks that we work with, Brian Frank and Tyler Borsak and Eleni Nikolopoulos, and more recently, Michael Delalio, and all of the former planners. They're just wonderful, devoted, dedicated people. And the secretaries, I started off with Denise Savarese as our legislative secretary. Laura McPherson is doing a wonderful job, as have Kyle Forpel and Brittany McPhee. We've been blessed to have really good help. But again, to the planning department, they just really are so dedicated to this town. So that's the point of what I wanted to really say, is just my appreciation and my thanks to you all. And I'm not leaving anywhere except for to go maybe visit my grandchildren and my daughters around. But thank you all for everything you do. And I'll leave it at that. But now we have a lot of work to do, actually. We have a very full agenda this evening. So we'll get going right away with the administrative applications. The first we have is 180 SB LLC, 180 Springy Banks Road in East Hampton, tax map number 300-74-5-30.5. And this is regarding to demolish an existing residence pool and patio within 150 feet of wetlands. And this is in Vice Chair Delaney's Springs. I beg your pardon, Board Member Tim Brenneman's East Hampton District, and Eleni Nikolopoulos is the planner. Good evening, Eleni.
I'll be covering it for.
Oh, Tyler, you're covering. Good for you. Thank you, Tyler. Good evening, Tyler.
Good evening. Thank you for those kind words. So this application is very straightforward. There's actually a house being constructed right now, which you can see is in the grayscale on this. Eleni did this to make it a little more obvious what the project was. The red is what's existing right now and is actually getting removed. All the work that's being constructed right now is outside of jurisdiction entirely. So they're removing structures that are within jurisdiction and building new structures outside. So the only thing that the board is in front of the board today, though, is the removal of the structures in red that are within jurisdiction of natural resources.
Thank you, Tyler.
Sure.
Tim, some comments?
Yeah, I looked at this and it was helpful that Eleni sketched it out in red. Certainly hard to argue that the conditions on this property won't be substantially better with this new project. The movement of the septic system, as well as all the structures now being in a conforming area. So it's really all about natural resources for us. From my perspective, I'm comfortable with this.
Thank you, Tim. Roy?
I am too, Mr. Chairman. The only question maybe for Tyler is there any re-veg? What's going to happen with those structures that are removed?
I believe that there is a revegetation included. Let me pull up the file real quick. I visited the property with Lenny, and I believe I remember discussing that there was going to be one, but it's not mine, so I'm not 100% certain. Let me pull it up.
Okay. But I support it.
Okay. Thanks, Roy. Ed?
Yeah, my question would just be what type of construction protocols are in place? We don't have a document here describing during the demolition, any potential runoff damage or any of that. Obviously, silt screening will be in place. Is all of that typical controls we have going to be enforced on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. We would definitely be including project limiting fencing, silt fencing, and the like.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Tyler. Terry?
Yeah, I ditto that. I was concerned about the precautions to the harbor in the demolition of this, but it looks like planning's on top of that. So I trust that they will take care of that. I guess this is the re-veg plan?
This is the revegetation.
It looks like it, yeah.
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 So that's
Okay.
the existing residence being removed and then a re-veg along here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's good drawings. Yeah, I'm in favor of it also.
Thanks, Terry. Thank you, Terry. I echo your remarks. I agree. I think I'm fine with this. And this is nice to see this thorough re-veg plan as well presented. Thank you, Tyler. Tim, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. So in the matter of 180 SB LLC at 180 Springy Banks Road in East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-74-5-30.5, I make a motion to approve this application administratively.
Second.
I'll concur.
I'll concur.
And I concur as well. Thanks, Tim, and thanks, Tyler. We'll move on next to Victor and Athena Calderon at 21 Robbins Way in Springs, tax map number 300-103-9-24.1, to remove existing concrete patio and elevated platform, relocate existing fencing, and to construct a new 600 square foot affordable accessory apartment, patio, outdoor shower, hot tub, and an upgraded IA sanitary system within jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. And this is in Vice Chair Delene's Springs District, and Tyler is handling this as well. Tyler, if you would please walk us through this a bit.
Sure, absolutely. So most of what's going on this property is existing. The applicants are proposing to remove some fencing in red here and relocate it. Obviously, they need fencing for their swimming pool, but it's going to be slightly further away from wetlands, which is an improvement. They're also proposing to remove a concrete area, which is in red here. And the majority of the project is to construct this affordable accessory apartment. It's also got a patio, an outdoor shower, and a spa on it. And they're upgrading the sanitary system to include both the affordable accessory apartment and the main residence, and pretty much the only location that could probably fit it on the property easily. Again, doesn't require variances since we are proposing it to be an administrative application. The applicants agreed to a 75-foot easement from the edge of wetlands, which I've depicted approximately on the survey. And the applicants have also agreed to removing the structures that need to be removed prior to a building permit being issued, so we can make sure that they do get removed prior to the building going up. Other than that, it's a pretty good project.
Thank you, Tyler. Roy?
I agree. I think that being that it is the structure is outside of jurisdiction, I think, and along with getting a new sanitary system and the easement is sure enough mitigation in my mind. So I would definitely support this application.
Thank you, Roy. Tim?
Same here. I'm comfortable with progressing administratively.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, I agree with my fellow board members, and just to highlight what was mentioned by the vice chair, I'm happy to see this this easement, this area that we can count on now being included in the future on the property. So I'm comfortable with moving forward administratively.
Thank you, Ed. Terry?
Yeah, I am too. I'm just, since it's affordable accessory apartments and relatively some new code, this lot size on this property is what, Tyler?
1 point.
Oh, okay, 1.25 acres.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
they need,
Yeah, and then
30,000?
this is, excuse me?
I think they need.
Yeah, it has to be 30,
30,000.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and I guess that's part of your overall admin project, that it falls into that overlay?
There's no overlay for affordable accessory apartments. It's any property on town that meets the requirements set forth in that section of code. So it has to be 30,000 square feet. I don't know what the other requirements are for affordable accessory
Oh, okay,
apartments.
but I assume they need some kind of registration?
Yeah, they'll have to go through the
That
building
before-
department to
okay.
get all that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yes, I'm in favor of it also.
Thank you, Terry. I agree with you all. It's good to see the affordable housing, good to see the easement, and good to see the lot size here as well, that it certainly conforms. So I'm good with this as well. Roy, if you'd like to make a motion, please.
Sure. Make a motion in the matter of Victor and Athena Calderon, 21 Robbins Way in Springs, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-103-9-24.1 to allow the application to go administratively.
I'll second that.
I concur.
Oh, Ed, you're muted, Ed, if yours.
I'm sorry. I concur.
Thank you, and I concur as well. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Roy. Next, we'll move on to Clifford H. Shapiro and Judith Cohen Shapiro at 8 Ocean Lane, Amagansett, tax map number 300-176-3-10. And this is to construct a 638 square foot, 1-story addition, outdoor shower, decking, hot tub, relocated pool equipment, new AC unit, propane tanks, generator, garage, extended driveway, fencing, upgraded IA sanitary system, and clearing within the jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. And this, Tyler, if you would please walk us through this, please. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. So you can see on the survey, they're proposing a 1-story addition on the north side of the house. Excuse me. Some additional decking, a hot tub. The applicant agreed to upgrade the sanitary system, which we had requested that they do. They weren't required to do so, but they are agreeing to do so. And then as well as the garage, and extending the driveway slightly to get to the garage. On the south side of the residence. The board has received 2 letters on this, and one of the letters reflects to a later application as well. The letter from the owner to the south is concerned about the garage and flooding issues. And then another application was just general development in the area, and both applications requested that it go to a public hearing. Both letters requested that the application go to a public hearing. If it was just the one letter, I would suggest that maybe the board split the application and say, and suggest the idea of letting the rest of the project go at the administrative route and the garage coming in for a public hearing. But the fact that there's a second letter, which sort of not objects to it, but requests a public hearing for the entire project, may make the board feel differently.
Thank you, Tyler, for that. I appreciate that. Appreciate your work on this. I reviewed this as well, and I visited the site today as well. And I'm thinking, for all the reasons that Tyler just laid out there, that it may be prudent on this one to let this one go to a public hearing and not handle this one administratively, just to give the neighbors their chance to speak, give the community their chance to speak, and have all of these things hashed out at a public hearing. So I'd like to know how the other board members feel about this extension. Roy?
Oh, I agree. I think that it would be remiss if we did not listen to the neighbors' letters and concerns. So I would agree that it should go to public hearing.
Thanks, Roy. Terry? Terry, I see you're muted. Maybe Terry, you're muted.
Yeah, even before I saw the letter, it looked like a lot on this project, even if it's not triggering an IA system upgrade. But particularly after seeing the letter, I do think we should have a hearing on this. What's the lot size on this one, Tyler?
Even without the owner's letters, it seemed like a significant amount of new work to happen on a 12,000 square foot lot. So I'm comfortable with this going to a full hearing.
Thanks, Ed. Tim?
I completely agree. And especially when a neighbor is raising concerns about flooding, the impact of flooding on their property, I think we have to stop and take a hard look. We owe that to the community.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, I think the planning department appreciates when we do stuff like that as well. So therefore, I would like to make a motion with regard to Clifford H. Shapiro and Judith Cohen Shapiro at 8 Ocean Lane, Amagansett, to deny the administrative application and move that this go forward with a public hearing. Does that work, Nancy Lynn? That was kind of sloppy. Does that work for you?
How we do it?
But you deny it going as administratively, but it's the same ends up, if it doesn't go administratively, it has to go to public hearing.
Right,
So
right.
it's getting to the same place.
In a long-winded way. Okay, do I get a second?
I'll second.
I concur.
I concur.
Okay, thanks you all. Okay, we'll move along next. We have at 52 Shore Road Holdings LLC at 52 Shore Road, Amagansett. Tax map number 300-131-8-10.1. And this is to construct an approximately 385 square foot one-story addition and an approximately 20 square foot second story addition with 1,203 square feet of first and second story decking, a 26 square foot shed, outdoor kitchen, new driveway, and upgraded sanitary system, install new windows and doors, and to revegetate existing cleared areas within jurisdiction of dunes and dune vegetation. And this is in my Amagansett district. And Tyler, if you would please walk us through this.
Sure. So the board had an administrative application on this lot 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. It wasn't long ago. And the way on handling it is just doing an entirely new permit for all of the work plus that, rather than just have two separate permits out at the same time. But ultimately what the difference is that small little triangle to bump out and make those, if one of them's a bathroom, and I forget what the upstairs portion is to just essentially to make it more livable. So there's the triangle I highlighted there in yellow on the first floor, and there it is on the second floor. Essentially that's the kitchen area, essentially just to make it more livable. And that's ultimately the only change in what had previously been approved. They're still revegetating all the areas in green, upgrading the sanitary system. They're bumping out a bit on the seaward side of the residence, and they're, adding two parking spots onto the parcel in the driveway. But the big change, if you want to call it big, is the change in that one corner of the house.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. Again, I did visit the site today, and I myself lean towards approving this, that it go administratively. It seems somewhat not that too significant, I should say, not very significant, considering where it is proposed in the development around it, the stairs and all the structures around it. So I'll move along. Roy, your comments, please, on this one.
I agree. I have no other comment.
Is everyone okay with this one? Any comments? Oh.
I'm fine with it.
I don't know. Again, what's the lot size on it?
Let's see. I have that too.
A little concerned since it's Shore Road and it's a sensitive area.
It's 40,100
40,000
square feet. Yeah. Well, that's the whole area to Thailand. The lot area, which would be anything landward of the dune crest, which is just shy of 20,000.
Yep.
And that was the addition. They were doing the new windows and doors originally too?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's new energy rules on that, right? Huh?
Right. Yeah, they were doing. Yeah, a bunch of that work had already been approved They're just adding the essentially the little triangle area.
The little triangle, right? That's
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
okay. Thank you, Terry. With regard to 52 Shore Road Holdings LLC, 52 Shore Road, Amagansett, I make a motion that this move forward administratively.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
I'll concur.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Wade, Michael, and Mary Living Trust at 87 Cliff Road in Amagansett, tax map number 300-174-2-7, to demolish all existing structures and construct a new 2002 square foot residence within the 129 square foot shed and outdoor shower, approximately 1,100 square feet of first and second story decking, approximately 600 square feet of bluestone paver patio, driveway alterations, and a new sanitary system on a parcel of land containing dunes and dune vegetation. Tyler, if you please.
Sure, absolutely. So the plan is to, and actually let me pull over the building plans. They show it a little bit nicer. This is the existing improvements on the parcel, which they are proposing to demolish. There's some existing lawn on the property, which was actually not allowed based on the previous ZBA approval that it existed. They're proposing to remove all that lawn and revegetate after the fact. They're building a new 2-story residence, some outdoor space with decking and a patio area, a garage, and then again revegetating after the fact to get rid of that lawn and obviously make up for the installation of the new sanitary system, which is going to require some disturbance.
Thank you, Tyler. So here on this as well was mentioned in a letter from a neighbor in the community. This one, I must say personally, I like what I see. I like to see the revegetation that unfortunately should have been done a long time ago. I like the IA system, the bluestone patio links that I believe that the neighbors own these owners as well own the adjacent house, which is over here. That walkway would lead towards that. I visited the site today. It's really down in a gully there, but right below the highway. It's amazing. And the house is very small on the lot. So this seems to me to be a reasonable project, but if the board agrees that they think this should go to a public hearing so that we get full community input on this, I have no problem with making a motion to that intent. Vice Chair Daylane, Roy?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, being that there was a letter that was pretty specific about this, their concerns on this project.
Yeah.
I think we have to err in the case of caution here, and I think we have to go through public hearing on this.
Thank you, Roy. Terry?
Yep, I think I feel the same way on that. And
Okay.
How big is this lot? Since I'm doing lot sizes.
Right.
The property is, there you go.
17,740.
Yeah,
Just shy of half acre.
yeah, I'd like a hearing on it, yes.
Mm-hmm. Good, great. Ed?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think that this is, all of this area of Amagansett is particularly sensitive. We like to look at this for the impact in several ways, not just this construction of the house, but of course the environment. And I think this really calls for a full hearing on it. And I'm in support of that.
Thank you, Ed. Tim?
Yeah, I agree. Nothing else to add.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, and also the increase, as Ed was saying, that sensitivity and as well the increase in square footage here. So I certainly agree that it would be great to get opinions from the public on this in a public hearing. So with that, I would make a motion with regard to Wade, Michael, and Mary Living Trust at 87 Cliff Road in Amagansett to deny that this go forward administratively.
I second.
Concur.
I concur.
Okay, thank you. Next, we move on to E. Sander Connolly Jr., or Jr., perhaps, at 271 Kings Point Road in Springs, tax map number 300-24-1-40, to construct an approximately 266 square foot one-story addition and approximately 207 square foot roof dormer, new slate roof in place, replace the siding, construct new windows and doors, an upgraded IA sanitary system within jurisdiction of Bluffs entitled Wetlands. And It's Tyler Borsak's night tonight, and this is in Vice Chair Roy Delane's district. If you would, Tyler.
Sure. So you can see fairly well on the survey where the additions are. It's on the landward side of the existing residence. Obviously, there's a very non-conforming swimming pool on this property down by the bluff there. But the project before the board is it's 2 bedrooms essentially. They're also doing a dormer addition on the, I guess, northern sort of side of the residence, which doesn't add to the gross floor area, but it's part of the project. They were going to be bumping out the roof. And they're also making some changes to windows and doors on the existing house, and a sanitary upgrade way back here out of jurisdiction. Other than that, it's fairly straightforward.
Thank you, Tyler. Roy?
I would just maybe, Tyler, could you speak to any re-veg that's going on or necessary?
They're not proposing any, and we felt that since it was fairly small and on the landward side, it didn't seem,
Okay, I agree. I'm just looking at some of the green shaded areas. I wasn't sure if any of that was new. So
that was all existing. Yeah.
But I do agree that the impact is minor here. It's on the landward side of the house. The dormer certainly doesn't have an impact, in my opinion. They're going to be renovating, doing the siding and windows anyway. I think it's a small impact on the property, so I agree.
Thank you, Roy. Terry?
Sorry, the phone's ringing.
Oh, we can go to Ed. I'll go to Ed for now. Hey, Ed?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the comments from Vice Chair Delene. I think that my first concern was about the re-veg, but that has been explained adequately to my concern. And I think that this is a minimum impact, and I'm comfortable with it going administratively.
Thanks, Ed. Tim?
Same here. It looks good to me.
Okay, thank you. Terry?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm a little bit concerned if anything ever has to else be done or the swimming pool goes into repair state, that there'd be enough room to have that moved to a better place on the property. But I guess it's a small enough project, and the upgrade of I'll agree to the
admin
on it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Terry. And I agree as well with my fellow board members and their comments on this one. Thank you all, and thank you, Tyler. We'll move on next to post-hearing decision. Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Oh, geez, I apologize. Thanks, Roy.
I make a motion on E. Sander Connolly, Jr., 271 Kings Point Road, Springs, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-024-01-40, to allow this application to go administratively.
I'll second.
I concur.
I concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you, Roy. So we'll move on to post-hearing decisions. First we have is Tourmalet LLC at 250 Old Montauk Highway at Montauk Tax Map number 300-87-3-4. Vice Chair Delene has recused himself on this application. And let's see, Ed, was this in your?
Yes, this is mine, Mr. Chair.
Great. If you please, Ed, if you take over from there, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The board will remember that the public hearing for this application was heard on October 5th, 2021. The survey we're working from is dated August 24th, 2021. During the hearing, we had 2 main areas that the board specifically asked the applicant to address. It was pointed out by our chairman that the lower level of proposed residence did not have 2 forms of egress from what was a basement area. That problem was addressed by the applicant in a sketch that we received from Lighthouse Land Planning on October 9th, 2021. Second area of concern related to both the neighboring residence to the northwest of the applicant's property and a driveway that cuts through the applicant's parcel and leads to another residence to the southwest. Given the amount of excavation that will be necessary to construct the proposed new residence on this property, concern was raised that a concerted effort would have to be made to protect that property to the northwest from damage through erosion or sliding of soil down the slope, possibly doing long-term or serious damage to that parcel. Additionally, the proposed demolition at the existing swimming pool area presented the danger that materials from that area might slide down and cover the adjacent driveway. Representatives for the applicant agreed to address these 2 areas. A letter was received on October 9th, a letter was received on October 19th, 2021, again from Lighthouse Land Planning, that included the basement egress sketch and the comment that an addendum to the building protocols that would provide, and I'm quoting, provide more information regarding the protection of the house to the northwest and the access driveway to the south. But at this point, we have not received that additional information. Now, there were several other aspects of this particular project we discussed. Some of it was about a proposed easement that was we looked at favorably, and the size of the project was discussed and the impact, and particularly given the slope and the topography of this area, it drops off very dramatically as it slides down, as it pitches down to the ocean. I have a problem with considering much of anything more on this project because a particular concern was the protocol to be produced by the applicant that would ensure to the board that that property that I believe is in a certain amount of potential danger, that property was protected adequately by whether it would be a series of protective walls, some sheathing, whatever it would be. But the fact is that after telling us on October 19th that it was forthcoming, we have not received it at this point. Therefore, I know there's other things and aspects of this that should be reviewed, but for me, I can't move forward with approving this based on the fact that the item that was of particular interest to us at the time of the hearing was not addressed by the applicant. So I'm looking to deny this application at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ed, for that. Terry, comments, please?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with member Johan. He very well stated the concerns that we had at the time. And the night of the hearing, there were some technical difficulties. The neighbor at 246 tried to call into the hearing, but because of some technical difficulties, he wasn't able to participate that night. But he did follow it up with a letter, and he also engaged Tarbert and Lester to further elaborate on some of the concerns that we had the night of the hearing, including the access lane down to the house on the southwest side of this property, also for the construction and for the stabilization of their own concern for the stabilization of the bluff, considering there were other constructions going on nearby, and that they had some damage during some of the heavier construction work on the already existing or in progress houses farther away from their house. So on October 26th, we got a letter from Tarbert and Lester that they've been engaged, and they made some very thoughtful, in my opinion, concerns related to everything that had been discussed by the board, and that would hopefully have been enlightened more or satisfied everyone had we gotten the updated protocol that we were expecting in time. That didn't happen. And I think the letters dated October 18th from Tarbert and Lester. I think they make some very good arguments about the house and some contentions about the actual variance for the height and the retaining walls. And they also did write that they had some specific requirements they wanted relative to the piling that would have to go on in the project. And also that they were waiting for the updated construction protocol also from the applicant, in which they wanted to respond to that if it came in or when it came in. So I have doubts that this project as it stands with the information we have, it really meets the standards for an NRSP at this point in time without any further explanation. I'm concerned about the environmental protection on this property and this project. So I too am looking to deny it.
Okay, thank you. Tim?
I have to say that I wasn't aware that we had not received the updated protocol. Prior to that, I was my leaning here was to grant an approval of the overall project, but in good conscience, I don't think I can do that unless we've got real comfort with the building protocol that we have this property as secure as we wanted. So, this is a significant project. It's an unusual piece of property. We've got this driveway running through it, which creates some additional, sort of limitations, I would say, on the property. But given the terrain, the steep drop off here, and the lack of clarity on some of the key points with regard to construction, I'm going to side with my fellow board members on a denial of this.
Okay, thank you, Tim. I would echo all that you said. I find it very surprising that they did not submit some additional information after the public hearing. It's kind of shocking. I think it's kind of too bad. Overall, I think they will be able to and can handle this, but I certainly would have wanted to see the revised or the updated construction protocol with regard to the monitoring and the vibrations and the decibels. So it's a shame they didn't actually ask this board for an extension of time. I imagine we would have granted them another month if they needed it or something, but that did not occur. So I'd have to agree with my fellow board members on this and deny it. Council?
I believe that all we have in front of us, because the height variance I don't think was necessary, so it's just on the NRSP. And that's my understanding of this one, correct? The board's, that's where we're at on this one?
There was discussion of that at the hearing, but again, the neighbor, I think, was contesting that and also was looking forward to the additional information as to, whether it was required or not. No.
So with regards to this determination and not having that clear, would it be fair to say that the board is denying this application on the NRSP and does not reach the issue of the variance?
Does not reach it. It sounds reasonable to me.
It seems like we're all denying it for lack of information.
Right, but you can't, on a variance denial, you have to go through the factors.
Sure.
And if you don't have enough information to go through those factors, yes, the onus is on the applicant to be able to prove each of those. But there is if you don't have necessarily updated information, it may complicate things a bit. In order to build or to be able to go forward, they would need both the variance and the NRSP. So granting one and not resolving the issue on the other still ends the application and requires that they come back.
I think they did state that they didn't need the height variance, but then there was a question again from the neighbor and I believe from the board as far as the natural grade and where that started for the height. So
do you want to go through and decide the factors on the variance, or would you want to just or do you want to just because you've given the information with regards to it being inconsistent without the assurances that that it will not cause harm to the environment and to the neighbors in the manner of for the issue of the NRSP permit. If it fails the NRSP, they can't go forward because they need that as well as potentially as well as the variance. Or do you want to now discuss whether or not to deny or approve the variance?
Yeah, I would. I won't be on the board when this comes back, I imagine, but it seems to me logical that I mean, if it's possible legally, counsel that this board could hold off on the pyramid and just let it come back as another application whenever that happens with all the proper information. That's my opinion, but I defer. I should start off with Ed first, being another Montauk. Ed, on that one?
Yeah, well, my note from that night were that we no longer thought that the variance was an issue with us, and so I did not consider it in tonight's. If I was wrong in that, I'll have to reconsider what the impact is, but much aligned with what Member Brenneman said, I thought this was a pretty solid application. I'm stalled on the fact that the protocols never moved forward, and so I concentrated on that. So for me right now, I don't have a strong opinion about the height variance.
Yeah, and I think you may be correct in your recollection as well, Ed.
Yeah, and I would like to go with the NRSP. We could forego the other part for now. Yeah, I'm concerned with the environmental protection and the stability of the bluff as a protected natural resource.
I also appreciate council's suggested wording on this. So I think that's a good way for us to go.
Yeah. Roy?
Roy.
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. Well, thank you, board members. Council, does that work for you enough
Yes,
to wordsmith that?
that's fine. Yep, that's no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll move to Cove Marina LLC at 364 Westlake Drive in Montauk, tax map number 300-12-1-4. And let's see, do we have that up on the screen here? There we go. Oh, thank you. Great. Excellent. And let's see, Ed, again, was this, did you handle this one, Ed? I apologize.
Yes, it was, Mr. Chair. It was.
Yeah, thank you. If you would take it from here, Ed, please.
Yeah, thank you. The public hearing for this application was also on October 5th, 2021. The survey we're working for was last revised on August 22nd, 2019. The applicant produced a 3-page proposed bulkhead and bulkhead details plan that was last revised on August 24th, 2020. That detailed plan that we see portion, well, that's not here, but the detailed bulkhead plan is something we refer to regularly in the course of our discussion that night. The applicant also produced a document from the New York State DEC dated May 15, 2020 that was issued to the previous owner of Diamond Cove Marina, William Reichart, that included a permit to do a specified amount of dredging along the base of the existing pilings. The applicant also supplied a document from the Army Corps of Engineers dated December 6, 2019 that stated that an individual permit would not be required from them for the repairs of the existing bulkhead to move forward. It would not be required by the Army Corps of Engineers. The applicant also submitted a letter from the New York State Department of State dated October 29, 2019, that the proposal to repair the bulkheads at Cove Marina met the general consistency concurrence standards criteria, and that the proposed work could, as far as they were concerned, move forward. During the hearing, 2 primary issues were raised by the zoning board members. In reference to a sketch supplied by the applicant dated November 11, 2020, and received by this board on February 26, 2021, questions were raised as to how the improved and repaired bulkhead might be installed in the areas where it would be completed within 7 feet of the nearest neighbor to the south, Westlake Marina. Questions were raised about completing the installation, which included a steep slope of backfill to be dredged from the water side of the bulkhead, and whether or not that fill could be successfully contained on the property of Cove Marina without spilling southward and onto the adjacent property. A second issue involved the height of the proposed bulkhead. The proposed improved bulkhead would finish at an elevation 9 feet, which in many places would place it 6 foot above existing grade. Again, the board wondered about the impact on neighboring properties. The applicant felt confident that an agreement could be worked out with the neighbor, but later a call from the public included comments from Christopher Miller, the neighbor immediately to the south, which cast some doubt about his willingness to approve the project. In a letter from Mr. Miller dated October 18, 2021, he states his concerns about both the height of the proposed bulkhead and the effects that the backfill would have if it was to be installed directly along his property line, and what possible additional damage it might cause to his property. An additional letter was received by this board from Leonard Jackson Associates on behalf of Mr. Miller dated October 19, 2021, that listed other complaints that were associated with the Cove Marina application. During the public hearing, the applicant indicated that he would get back to us with his response to the board's stated concerns. To this point, however, we haven't received additional information from him concerning those doubts that we had about portions of the application. Now, this is not dissimilar to the decision we just recently had to look at in a previous case, and that is that we had very specific concerns on this one. We stated them. There was a very confident attitude on the behalf of the applicant that he could achieve the completing the work without doing damage to his neighbor. But the neighbor, I think, correctly and carefully stated his concerns, because at 7 feet, we didn't see that dynamically this was really going to be very possible. Even if it could be constructed, which we doubted it could, there's the issue of planting it out and long-term maintenance and what would happen if any kind of additional erosion took place and how it would affect the adjoining properties. That was never addressed again later on by the applicant. The height of the bulkhead was also of great concern, because we realized that by the time you went all the way to the southeast on this, at the far extremity of the bulkhead, it stood about 6 foot above existing grade. The neighbor to the south has a business in that area. He voiced complaints about whether or not that was appropriate. And we all left that meeting hoping that a compromise might be found on the height of the bulkhead and the proper protocol by which to move forward in dealing with the proximity of the project to the nearest neighbor. All of these things, again, were of importance to us, and we discussed them at length. And unfortunately, at this point, we have not had a response from the applicant that addresses either the height or the construction of it relative to the neighbor. I don't feel as much that I can move forward with personally in approving this until we felt comfortable that the impact on the adjoining property was properly considered, and that we've thought this through and protecting the interest of the neighbor while also looking at the viability and the importance of the project. I think it's important to note that there were no initial objections with the idea of improving this. To be sure, people would love to see this broken down and decrepit, and in many places seriously damaged bulkhead repaired. It would be a good improvement on the site, but the details surrounding the installation and the actual height were never resolved successfully, to my mind, in order for us to move forward and agree to approve this application. So I'm going to have to say that I'm looking to deny this application. I think that the potential impact on the neighbor, I think that the visual impact of the height of the bulkhead, I think all lean against approving it, and that's what I'm going to decide here on my behalf, that I will not approve. I'm looking not to approve this application.
Ed, thank you for those thoughtful comments. I appreciate that. Terry? There you go.
Okay. I messed up the video for a second too. Yes, well, member Johan, as usual, gave a very thorough description of the project and of the documentation regarding it. Going back to the sketch that was given to us, that we received on February 26, 2021. It's a sketch. I think it was lacking some detail, but it clearly shows how the grading would go down from a split rail fence they want to put in at the elevated 9-foot height of the bulkhead that does grade directly down to the neighboring property. And they were going to put plantings in the elevations of the bulkhead. We're also in question with the sketch, the C1 bulkhead plan. It shows possibly like 3.3 or 3.4 foot grade for the bulkhead, yet the sketch shows while moving it up to an elevation of 9. And if you walk the property, I'm very familiar with the property, and if you walk down there, you could see clearly how anything graded up and higher than the property to the south would be impactive to that property. As Member Johan stated, the applicant did say that they were in concurrence with the neighbor, and the neighbor did join later on to say that was not true at all, and did have this Leonard Jackson Associates come up with an engineering scope, and they too had many questions and concerns about the project. And this is another one where I believe the applicant said we would hear further from him, and we did not. So I too am looking to deny it. Kind of a shame that we didn't hear back from him. You're probably aware of, this board is aware, certainly, on the north side of this property where there was also a bulkhead repair necessary, and the bulkhead and the dock is in extreme disrepair. We approved that one administratively, but as of yet, that has not occurred either. So we don't even have a guideline as to how that all worked out. I don't see this project meeting the standards, and I too am looking to deny it as it stands with the application as it came in.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Terry. Roy?
Mr. Chairman, I do agree with my two other board members. Very well laid out. Member Johan and Terry. I think it's unfortunate that this is a viable project in my mind. However, I think that there are alternative designs that can make this better. He didn't come up with it. He didn't come back to us. And I think with the concerns of the neighbor, as was stated in the Leonard Jackson letter as well, I think there's enough concerns here. I think I agree that if the applicant came back with elevations of this bulkhead that does conform and does not affect the neighbor as it does in this case, he would have a viable project here. So I agree with that. It should be denied.
Thank you so much, Roy. Tim?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to my fellow board members. I'm in complete agreement. I break this down to, number one, I think that we still have some really basic questions with regard to the facts. We're, at least from my perspective, I'm confused about the height, the impact of the grading, even the need for the split rail fence where it's elevated and seems to obstruct view as part of the concern expressed by the neighbor. I would further say that I found the neighbor's argument and then the resulting information that they provided very compelling. We received a letter from Leonard Jackson Associates, an engineering firm, very well laid out, suggesting a number of things here are not valid, not correct. And in the end, I kind of felt like I had more facts, details, and maybe more credibility from the neighbor than I did the applicant when I got done reviewing this file. Especially the flooding concern with the height and then the sloping of the terrain away from that onto the neighbor's property, that does seem like a likely potential outcome of this. And so I put this together, and I just don't feel like it reaches the standards associated for the NRSP. And then I have some questions about the variance with regard to the split rail fence. So in the end, I don't think it reaches the standards for that variance request either. And so ultimately, I'm in agreement with the denial of this application.
Thank you very much, Tim. A few comments. For the most part, I agree for all of it. I agree with everything you all said, so I'm not going to repeat that. Thank you, Ed, for that very thorough analysis, because that pretty much summed it up as far as I'm concerned. Terry, thank you for your follow-up. I agree with your comments. Roy, I appreciate your comments in that I agree that it's a shame that these applicants didn't come back. They had all the opportunity in the world to come back, and this could be a proper application. And Tim, I appreciate your comments and strongly echo your sentiments on the engineer's report. I must say I agree with that report. I think we are lacking a lot of information. We're also lacking a dewatering plan here for the dewatering and making sure that we don't have any kind of runoff. So I would like to see when that does come back, I think this board should insist that a dewatering plan, or in the letter that the board and the planning department, more specifically, and Brian Frank is handling this application, be able to thoroughly review a dewatering plant. If this did come back whereby the bulkhead was lowered, there was a proper swale that was going to contain this site's runoff and be adjacent and work with the neighbors, proper grade. As Roy said, this could be a fine application, but we don't have that information. They were given a chance, and therefore I as well would deny this application. Council, does that work for you?
Yes, I mean, it's a little light on the variance stuff, but I think, I believe from what of the factors you're talking about, I believed, and I would prefer that it be confirmed by the board. There is concerns about the fence and its height above grade, changing the character of the neighborhood, having a negative effect on the neighbors. That it may not actually be necessary, and that so that the benefit to the potential detriment outweighing the benefit to the applicant, especially since they may not need that, depending upon what happens with the NRSP.
I agree. And it's just a few comments. I think this would fall into that, obviously. I think just the whole environmental issues with regard to the dewatering, not having information on that, not having proper information even on the application with regard to the swale and the runoff to the neighbors. The drawings were very thin and incorrect. And I think this has to do with regard to not meeting our standards with the neighbor, the environment. Is it affecting the neighbor adversely? And yes, it is. Mm-hmm. And what other comments, board members, on that?
We could go through the standards. I mean, it does the benefit to the applicant outweigh any detriment?
Let's just do that.
Health, safety, welfare of the neighborhood or the town as a whole. I believe the benefit does not outweigh the detriment. Again, based on the changes in the grade to the bulkhead and the fence on top of that, and the revegetation toward the neighbor's property, is it the minimum variance necessary and adequate to alleviate the applicant's difficulty? No, it is not the minimum variance required. And I think we all have expressed our opinion that the applicant has not shown that the benefit accruing to him from the grant of the variance outweighs any harm which will be caused to the neighborhood or the town.
Correct.
And that it's a minimum. And an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, I guess potentially we don't want to see a whole lot of bulkheads going up higher and higher. So yes.
Yes.
The variance is with regards to the fence, but obviously if the fence is on top, is meeting the grade of the bulkhead, then that's the height of the fence. The variance is only is not for the bulkhead, but for the fence.
Right.
But I know that they're interrelated, and I'm just trying to clarify that because the fence is placed at that height because of the height that they're requesting for the bulkhead. So,
right. I think that we're talking about there's a strong potential here for there to be alternative designs.
Yes.
That would have less of an impact.
Yes.
On potentially the environment, creating additional flooding than what has been presented.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Good. Thank you all. Thank you, Nancy Lynn. Okay, next we'll move on to interpretations, to other decisions. And we have George Colasa at 2 Springs Fireplace Road in East Hampton, New York. East Hampton at Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-163-3-11. And I just wanted to read that into the record. This is in, Eleni is presenting this, and this is in Board Member Brenneman's East Hampton District. So I'll hand it off to you.
Before you do that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I have to ask you about notice. I beg your pardon.
This is just to remind the board, this is this is not our usual procedure. It is one of our exceptions to requirement for a public hearing. However, it is going to be treated in the same way of any other variance where we present and have to create a record, and then we can discuss and come to a determination this evening because there's no need to hold a record open. There is no public hearing, but there is a requirement that proper notice be done. And I do have the affidavits that the mailings went out on the 18th day of November and that it was posted on the 18th day of November. It also was published in the East Hampton Star. It was in the December 2nd issue where the notice of this application was published. So all of the required notifications were done with regards to this this application, and so then it can go forward with a information similar, not quite as extensive because it will not be presented by the applicant, but we do need a field report. We need a presentation from the planning department, some discussion, and then you can hopefully reach a determination with regards to whether or not to approve this application.
Thank you, Nancy Lynn. Thank you very much for that clarification. Before we go on to the field report, I will just briefly from the TAM note again that this is to allow existing pool equipment to remain located within side yard setbacks, and the relief sought here is one variance from 255-11-10 of 3.5 feet is required to allow pool equipment to remain located 16.5 feet from the side yard property line where 20 feet is required, and any other relief necessary from the East Hampton Town Code. And this is in a flood zone, pardon me, this is an A residential zoning district. The secret class here is type 2, and the flood zone is X flood zone. So, Tim, I'll hand it off to you, if I may, please, for your report.
Sure. I'll provide an overview on this, and Tyler is driving, and so he'll take a look at some of
my apologies. Yep.
Thanks, Tim. Some of the photos that are in the planning department file. As noted, this is a side yard variance. It's a very minor variance of 3.5 feet. So, and it relates to pool equipment on the far north of the property. The photo depicted here shows a shed, and immediately behind that shed is a structure that covers the pool equipment. You can see that it's very well screened. And then secondly, also, if you look closely at that photograph, you can see immediately through the vegetation that there is a driveway access on the other side of it. So even though this is a variance request to the side yard property, it really doesn't go directly to the neighbor's property, but rather to a driveway easement that goes through there. And this, I did speak to Eleni. This qualifies from a planning department standpoint for a potential admin approval because it's the variance request is both less than 10 feet and also less than 25% of the setback. So those are the qualifying factors here.
And just to interrupt, it's not to go administratively, it's to go without a hearing.
To go without a hearing. Thank you for that clarification. we had also, it should be noted, the ZBA had also had this property in front of us, and we had given verbal approval prior to realizing we needed to go through this formal process. So with that, I think that's the end of my field report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Tim, and I recall that evening as well, and your report then as well. Thank you, Terry.
Actually, we should hear from Tyler.
Oh, yes, we should from Tyler. I apologize. Thank you. Yes, please, Tyler, if you would.
That was pretty straightforward. So they're requesting a side yard variance. People probably drive by this property all the time. It's right at the southern end of where Springs Fireplace Road begins. It is worth noting there is a driveway there, but it's also the applicant's driveway is essentially what that access easement. That driveway comes around and connects into their own property. So it's a variance from their own access easement section of that parcel, which is worth noting as well. But yeah, it's a small minor variance. There has been no public comment that I'm aware of, and I think that's all we have for that.
Thank you, Tyler.
And I will confirm that we have nothing in the record with regards to public providing any objection or any letters on either in support or in opposition.
Thank you, Nancy Lynn. I apologize. Now we'll go back to Tim. Tim, would you like to start us off as far as comments on this?
Yeah, I'm in favor of approving it. I think it meets our standards. Number one, it's a minor variance. Number two, it's well screened. And number three, we have an additional 30-foot access easement that is the applicant's driveway that really is being most impacted here. So I think this is a great candidate, and I think it meets our variance standards without any additional mitigations.
Thank you, Tim. Terry? Do we have Terry? Terry, you muted.
Mute.
Yep.
I'm talking to myself again. Okay. Yes, I'm in complete agreement. I don't have anything to add. I'm in complete agreement with Tyler and with Tim on this. And I think it does meet our standards. It's minor, and I approve it.
Thank you. Roy?
I agree. And I think that the defining aspect on this is the fact that there is uniqueness to this variance with that access easement.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, I agree with my fellow board members, and I have nothing to add.
Thank you. I agree with you all. And thank you, Tyler, for your work on this. And thank you, Eleni, for spearheading this application. Let's see. Next, we will move on to Michael O'Connell at 97 South Essex Street in Montauk. Tax map number 300-49-1-13.2. And this is requesting that the record remain open until February 8th, 2022, instead of the original date of December 14th, 2021, for the purpose of submitting an updated survey, drainage plan, and landscaping plan. Terry, if you please. Terry, you're muted again. She's muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, this is an application. You call it's on the address is Essex Street. It's at the corner of South Euclid Avenue in Montauk. And this is one for a retail establishment. And there were a number of concerns. There's a property immediately to the west of that for which there's also an application in front of the planning board. And there were concerns that were brought up relative to this application that might impact the other, and regarding drainage and the landscaping plan and some of the survey information and the parking and a whole number of things. So we got a letter. There's a consulting engineer that was being brought in by the planning board in order to make comments and update the project. So we did get a letter on November 19th from Andrew Strong, who's the attorney for the project, and requesting that we give the time to get this information back and that we hold the record open until February 8th. I have no problem with doing that. I think it would only be helpful to us ultimately making our decision on the project. So,
Okay, thank you, Terry. I think that we have
Need a
the wrong
motion.
on the screen. We don't have this project on the screen. I don't know if Tyler's driving that or.
Yeah, I don't have anything for the.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, good. Maybe you can just, whatever. So that is not the project there. Let's see, Ed?
oh, that's
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the comments of Member Berger. I think that it only benefits us to give the applicant more time to get as complete a record in front of us so we can make an informed decision. So I'm in favor of this moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Roy?
I agree, and I believe we need a motion for that too, right?
Mhm.
We will. And Tim?
I'm in agreement as well.
Okay, thank you, Tim. I am as well with all of you, and thank you for that. So Terry, if you'd like to make a motion, please.
Yes, and for the application of Michael O'Connell at 97 South Essex Street in Montauk, tax map 300-49-1-13.2. I make a motion to leave the public record council, or just open for this purpose.
It's the written record, not
Leave the written record open until February 8th of 2022 to allow the applicant to get the engineering reports and the updated plans.
I'll second.
I concur.
I concur as well.
And I concur as well. And look at it, Tyler found the shot. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you all, and thank you, Terry. We'll move along, and thank you, Marco, for his work on this application. Next, we'll go to extensions of time. We have Springmark LLC at 100 Runnymede Drive in Springs, tax map number 300-23-4-9. And thank you, Tyler. Has that up on the screen already. Roy, if you please, on this one.
Yeah, maybe we can hear two.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tyler. Yeah, Tyler, if you please introduce it if you would, Tyler.
Sure, not a problem.
Thanks.
This is a really straightforward one. The application was originally in 2018, so this is their first extension of time. They've done no work on the project as of yet, so it's just an extension to continue 18. They haven't done any work on the project yet, and the original project was to demolish the residence, construct a new residence, swimming pool, sanitary system, patio. But none of that work has commenced. So they're just looking to extend the permit to keep the permit valid.
Thank you, Tyler. Okay, Roy?
Yeah, I'm agreeing. If it's okay with you, I can make a motion right away on this.
I think so.
I make a motion for in Springmark LLC, 100 Runnymede Drive in Springs, Suffolk, tax map number 300-023-04-9 to allow the extension of time.
I'll second that.
I
I'll
concur.
concur.
And I concur as well. Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Tyler. Next, we have Ingrau at 402 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk, tax map number 300-22-1-5. And Tyler, if you would please, on this one.
Sure, this one's a bit more involved. There was, if I remember correctly, there was a modification on this a few years ago now. Because of some changes that were done in the project. Originally, the project, let me zoom in on the aerial here. Originally, the project was supposed to be gaining access from the neighboring property going around what are wetlands up here on the parcel. And I can pull up a survey as well in order to show it a little bit better where the wetlands are. Pull this over. So originally, that there was supposed to be access from the north. Or from the east, since this is backwards. Yeah, the east. That didn't occur. They've been gaining access over the wetlands essentially through the access easement on the parcel, as you can see essentially through the aerial. So there was also some construction that took place of a foundation that was not what was approved. So that part of the modification was fixing that. That aside, there has been some construction work that's been going on. Brian notes that that there's the foundations in the ground and there's potentially some walls that have gone up. Not a significant amount of construction, though, has occurred as of yet. There is the construction access through you can see the pictures here of the of what's been going on. Project limit fencing is still up. And I believe there's a photo of the access there. There's the bridge over the wetlands. And let's so the one thing that Brian noted was that the application would probably benefit from a narrative to identify a timeline for completion of this project. It's been going on since, when was the original permit date? 2005.
2005, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been going on for quite a while. There's been issues in the past. It's not been a straightforward application in the least. So Brian suggested that some sort of a estimate in the timeline, as well as in order to show that they can essentially complete the project at this point in time, would be helpful to the board. So that was his suggestion in the extension of time memo that we issued, is that the board should probably get some additional information before moving forward on this.
Thank you, Tyler. Terry, before I hand it off to you, just a suggestion that we discuss that this board send a letter to echo Tyler's point, and Brian, I spoke to Brian about this, send the letter that we have that would give them perhaps something like, we set a date like January 30th to get back a response and a timeline of construction that they propose, because this does go back to 2005. So I'm just curious if you all are in agreement of that as well. So Terry, you want to start off, if you would, please?
Well, okay, yeah, a letter to the agent, I assume.
To the applicant,
To the applicant. Well, would that would be prior, we would expect the information to come back to us prior to granting the extension of time?
January, exactly right. We've done this, as you know, a few times, where we would basically say, we're looking for this information. This goes back to 2005. Before we consider your extension, we're requesting this information. And
I'm in agreement with that. I think it could be very necessary. As Tyler explained to us, it goes back to 2005. The access from the side to avoid the wetlands. What happened was the property to the east got sold, and you saw the pictures of the bridge, the current bridge going over the wetlands, and the design of the project. There are still a whole lot of open questions, I guess, about the foundation. I don't know if you remember, this is a house that was going to have windmills on it, very modern looking ones. And then part of the modification, I believe, was to make them look like more traditional windmills. But it stalled a couple of times. And I'm in agreement that we would write the letter to the agent with the requests of the information that Brian's recommending we get, and to try to move this along. Timeline, I like the idea of a timeline very much.
Okay.
If I may suggest, Chair, if we adjourn this and put it on the agenda for the meeting of January 25th, then at that time, if you haven't received anything, then you can then decide on the extension of time. But that gives them more than a month to get the paperwork into the board, for the board to be able to have that to consider.
And would we be getting a letter off with that as well?
A letter informing them that it's been postponed to the
25th.
Until
February
that date,
5th.
to consider the extension of time, and that we are looking for that the board requires this information in order to make a decision on the extension of time. And if they don't do that, then as you have done this evening, perhaps that's an extension that would not be granted without that information.
Right. And did you say that hearing was February 5th?
No, I was saying that it would be for the January 25th meeting.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I beg your pardon. Go ahead. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Nancy.
I'm in
I'm
agreement
fine with that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Board members, you all good with that?
I would like to just make a suggestion that
Please do.
letter that comes back to us not only addresses timeline, but I think it should address the fact that the applicant and the contractor both understand the restrictions that were set on the decision, that they are aware of it and recognize. Because remember, if this bridge was only designed for a certain load capacity, and there were certain guidelines and protocols that were set in place for that. So I think as long as they come back to us and say a timeline, and that they do acknowledge the constraints of the protocol and the decision, I think that's important. There's been a lot of issues with this property.
All right, great.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, I just want to echo what was just mentioned by the Vice Chair, and also say that it's a construction site that is stopped in sort of mid-swing here. And I visited the site, and you have other concerns that go beyond just progress on the building itself, and that is that if the project is complete, we would assume that revegetation would help stabilize the area as it slopes down towards the bluff. At this point, it's an open hole. There are piles of sand, and I think long-term, if we grant an extension, we'd want to know that there was some terminus time, not just to complete the project, but also to protect what is a very sensitive environment there. So I'm all for us forcing their hand to let us know a little bit more about what this, or a lot more, what's going to go on in the future with the project.
Thank you, Ed. Any other comments, board members?
Well, I just think that Brian kind of laid it out nicely in his memo, just above the picture that's on the screen now, as to the estimated time and the adherence to all the dimensional setbacks and conditions of approval.
Right.
They could address all of that. Yeah.
Okay, so council, I guess do we need a motion? Do we just move forward with that?
You're just going to table this until January 25th, and ask that your secretary, with some assistance from Brian Frank and myself, inform the applicant that this is why it's being tabled and what the expectations of the board are before that meeting.
Thank you very much, Nancy Lynn. Okay, we will move on next for the minutes approval for the draft minutes of December 7th, 2021. I've read these and they looked fine to me. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah, I read them all, so they look good to me too. So I will make a motion to approve the draft minutes of December 7th, 2021 for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals. To approve.
Is there a second?
I concur.
I concur then.
And I concur as well. Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Terry. Let's see. Okay, we'll move along next to resolutions. First, we have Hispaniola Trust at 9 Shipwreck Drive in Amagansett, tax map number 300-152-2-8.36. We all recall this application. 1 second, I just want to pull it forward here. And this is this application dealt with constructing the 196 square foot pool house, a 380 square foot garage, move the existing shed to a more conforming location, upgrade sanitary system, and allow the existing outdoor shower woodwork walkway to remain on a parcel of land containing beach vegetation and within 150 feet of wetlands. I don't have to go over this. We've all analyzed this very thoroughly, and at the end of the day, this was approved unanimously by this board. So I make a motion that with regard to Hispaniola Trust at tax map number 300-152-2-8.36, that we approve the determination as written.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
Okay, thanks. Next, we have Edward F. Albee Foundation, and this is at 91 Fairview Avenue in Montauk, tax map number 300-16-2-22. And Ed, I will hand this off to you, if you please. Ed Johan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll remember that this was a hearing and a decision that was rendered of a very large piece of property that had some historical significance. They were looking to do several improvements on the existing building, to demolish a guest cottage, an art studio, and replace it with a new structure in that spot. There was some parking pad issues that were addressed, and there were a couple of other small items like outside showers and pathways. We were unanimous in our approval of this. We thought that it was a straightforward application and that it was well handled by the applicant and their representatives. And again, we was unanimous approval on our part. So I can make a motion now on the on behalf of the Edward F. Albee Foundation. Oh, I should say that okay. On the Edward F. Albee Foundation, 90 Fairview Avenue, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-016-02-22 to accept the resolution as written.
Second.
I concur.
And
I'll concur as well.
I will give Terry the second there, and I concur as well. Thanks, Tim. And thank you, Ed. Next, we move on to 188 Old Montauk Highway, LLC at 188 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk, tax map number 300-87-3-20. And Terry, I believe, or Ed, did you handle this one, Ed?
Terry did.
Terry did,
No.
okay.
I did, but I'm the dissenter on it, so is it okay?
Oh, yeah, no problem. That's not a problem.
Okay, all right. This is a redevelopment of a property on the Old Montauk Highway, 188. You recall that it's on the same ownership as 184, which was also more recent, not more recent, slightly older redevelopment of the property at 184, where the structure is the house is being moved much more landward off the toe of the bluff. And this was a decision 4-1, all board members approving except for myself, and I was the dissenter on it. But I can make the motion, right? I make a motion for 188 Old Montauk Highway LLC at 188 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, tax map 300-087-03-20 to approve the resolution as written.
I'll second it.
I concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you, Terry. Next, we go on to Pauline Post at 9 Quadrant Hill Road in East Hampton, tax map number 300-55-1-13. And this is board member Tim Brenneman's file, if you would, Tim.
Sure, and the board will recall this was a unanimous approval. This was a longtime owner of a property in a very wooded area that bordered Cedar Point Park. And it had a variance request for a bump out area of the deck. And as we evaluated it, we all approved it without further mitigation because we felt like there was really nothing that could be done that would make it look more natural. In fact, it would look unnatural to try to put up any screening. So with that, I will make a motion in the matter of Pauline Post at 9 Quadrant Hill Road, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-55-1-13 to approve the resolution as written.
Second.
Second. Okay, I'll concur.
I concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you, Tim. Okay, next we have Philip and Lois Malinzak at 305 Kings Point Road in Springs, tax map number 300-24-1-12, and this is in Vice Chair Roy Delane's district. If you would, Roy, please.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. This was a application to construct about 2,500 square foot of first and second floor additions on a house that was originally built in 1959, went through a fire and rebuilt in 1968. Essentially, nothing's been done since that time. The redevelopment of the property we felt was in line with the neighborhood, and we all approved it. With that, I'm making a motion to, for in the case of Philip and Lois Malinzak, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-24-1-12 to approve the application as written.
The determination, yep.
Determination is
Great.
Second.
I concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you, Roy. Next, we'll move on to Martin Herman at 26 Seaside Avenue, Montauk, tax map number 300-32-7-6. Terry, this is you, I believe?
Yeah, if you recall, this was a modification. Actually, it was a rehearing on a modification request at 26 Seaside Avenue. It's a new development. And it was to add about a 3x3 addition into the foundation to allow construction of a dumbwaiter for the applicants who are aging to be able to get their groceries or whatever up to the throughout the house up to the roof. And there was a slight, I believe, a little bit of decking that changed at the west side of the house also. That would be modified a little bit with this. This was a unanimous approval. The ownership has changed on this. This is the original applicant, Martin Herman. I do make a motion for Martin Herman, 26 Seaside Avenue in Montauk, tax map 300-32-07-06 to approve the modification as written.
I'll second it.
I concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you, Terry. Okay, next we have Alex Zedlovich at 143 Isle of Wight Springs, tax map number 300-23-1-16.1. Again, this is in Vice Chair Roy Delene's district. If you would, Roy, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was an application to allow a boulder retaining wall in lieu of a retaining wall, as well as allow a permeable driveway at a grass paver system. We approved this unanimously. Therefore, I make a motion in the case of Alex Zedlovich, Suffolk tax map number 300-23-1-16.1, to approve the resolution amending determination as written.
Can I get a second?
I'll concur.
I'll concur.
And I'll concur as well. Okay, thank you, Roy. Thank you all. I think, Council, do you have any more business?
I do not.
Okay, well, there we go. We made it through. Thank you, Nancy Lynn and Laura, for all your work, and for Tyler this evening, getting us all through this, and to Michael at LTV. And thank you, board members. I hope you have a good evening. And we're going to need one more motion from Vice Chair Delane. Roy, if you please.
And before I make that motion, Mr. Chairman, I too want to say thank you for your service to this board, to this town for many years. You show exemplary leadership, and I know I speak for the rest of the board members when I say that. Thank you. And with that, I make a motion to close the work session of the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals, Tuesday, December 14th at 8:03 p.m.
Second.
I'll concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you, Roy, so much. Really touching. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good evening, you all. We'll see you around.
Happy holidays.
It sounded
Thank you.
like